Hey, thank you guys for coming out tonight. We're going to get going with our next panel here. We've got a very special panel together, and we'll go from the other end on down. We've got Danielle Nicole, owner and lead investigator of Vegas Afterlife Paranormals, as seen in Las Vegas Weekly. Give it up for Danielle. We also have Austin Alvarez, host of the YouTube show The Truly Bizarre and host of Spirits with Spirits at the Pioneer Saloon, as seen on CW's ARC and Channel 3 News. Give it up for Austin. We also have a producer, researcher, narrator, host, and psychic medium, as seen on CW's Mysteries Decoded, BuzzFeed Unsolved, and Something Scary. Give it up for Stephanie Strange. And you may or may not have ever heard of this guy. He's co-star of the longest-running television paranormal series, Ghost Adventures. Give it up for Jay Wasley! Woo!
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. My name is Old Man Liver. I'm the owner of the Pioneer Saloon. Voted number 7 most haunted destination in the country by USA Today. You know, beat up by Zach Baggins thing, whatever that ball of nonsense is, but whatever, you know. So we're gonna kick it off. It's gonna be a fun evening, and y'all are gonna be able to ask whatever questions you want of anyone on the panel. We'll get it rolling. Question number 1, and we'll go to Danielle. What does it mean to you to be a paranormal investigator and researcher?
Well, to me, I like teaching people. I like showing people that this is stuff that you should not be afraid of. This is stuff that you should know about and you should learn about. And I know there's a ton of skeptics out there. And I like proving that this stuff is real and proving that this is not just some superstitious stuff. So when I do my tours, I like to go in there and show people this is what's actually happening. This is real. And I think, to me, being an investigator is just proving people wrong, proving the non-believers wrong and turning them into believers. So that's what I think.
How do you prove it?
Through all kinds of scientific experiments and devices.
So the equipment that we use in paranormal investigations? Yeah. And then do you videotape your experiences?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Videotapes, photography, recordings, everything.
Have you ever gotten something so conclusive that you feel like if someone saw it or experienced it, that there is no way they couldn't say that this isn't real?
All the time. I mean, last night I did an investigation at Whiskey Pete's, and we were in this suite on the 19th floor, and I actually have it on a video. I wish I could show it to you guys, but we asked I forgot what we asked, and all of a sudden you hear this like blood-curdling scream come through the spirit box. And I got it on video, and it was the craziest thing. And I was like, there's no way that you're going to explain that. I'm sorry. There's nothing coming through that AM frequency for this random scream to just come through. I don't think you're going to have screams on the radio channels. So I don't know. That was really weird, but that just happened last night. So
no, I hear you, because there's stuff I legitimately cannot explain that I've experienced at the Pioneer Saloon. No matter what you believe or not believe, I cannot explain it. So.
Oh yeah, no, that was a few weeks ago here. I had some really weird shit happen. So
that happens here.
Yeah.
How about you, Austin?
So of everybody on this panel, I am probably the newest at paranormal investigation. I've only been doing it for a handful of years. For me, though, it's like answering a question to myself, because I grew up watching shows like Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, all those types of shows. And so for me, it was getting answers about like what really is after this, or is it something that you can even communicate with? And I guess to kind of answer the questions you asked her on concrete evidence, some of the stuff that we've gotten on Spirit Box, it doesn't make sense. Sure, okay, maybe some of it is radio coming in. You're talking to somebody, then you just hear, go to Finley Nissan, and you're like, oh, yeah, okay, the ghost is not telling me to go to Nissan. But, I've had people say names. I've had intelligent conversations back and forth. And for me, that's the craziest part, is having full-blown conversations with entities that I can't see.
That's neat. All right. How about you? What your experiences that you would say definitely proves that what you're doing is real?
Oh gosh. Okay, so I'll start with the story. I think for me and my husband, we really lead with our intuition and our abilities. And for the record, I believe everybody has abilities. I think that's what really draws us into these topics, whether we think we're gifted or not. But a great story is actually when I went to Tombstone, Arizona, and we went to the Oriental Saloon, and we had like set up all this equipment. And Carl, you were blindfolded, and you did not know what was going on. You didn't know where anything was, where we were putting all the equipment. And Carl started channeling one of the spirits there because he just felt more connected to the energy there than I did. So I said, hey, like, where do you feel the man? And Carl said the bar. And right when he said that, the cat balls started going off and no one was near the bar. So for us, I think we lead with our intuition and we allow our intuition to kind of just like, and our abilities to communicate with spirit, but then the equipment comes secondary. So I think that the experiences like that really just confirm like, wow, we really did channel the spirit. We really did get them to like touch the equipment and like communicate with them. Another place was the Omen House in LA, and I was the one blindfolded, and the same thing. And I said by the window, and right when I said that, one of the equipment, the K2 meter started going off. So like for us, like that's how we try to like really experiment. But I also think too that when it comes to investigations, like the fun part is debunking. Like let's try to debunk as much as we can until we can't come up with an answer.
Yeah, explain what the blindfolding technique is used for.
Yeah, so for at least for us, like we want to kind of deprive our senses, like our physical senses, like our visual senses, and I do have earplugs, and so like for the person that is being sensory deprived, in this case, like with me and Carl, I don't know where the equipment is being placed. So when that happened at the Omen House or the saloon, I said, where, like, tell me where you think the spirit is. And have them make the equipment go off. And that's when it happened. I didn't, like, he didn't know that the cat ball was by the bar. I didn't know that the K2 meter was by one of the windows. Then I was specific with which window, because he was trying to challenge me, like, which one? And I was like, oh, it's this one right here facing the tree. And I was trying to be descriptive with it. So those things like that, I feel like there's no way, like, how would I know, like, if I didn't know where the equipment was? So that's kind of how we work.
So are there some things where Carl connects more than you and you let him run with it?
Oh, absolutely. I think that like when it comes to ghosts and spirits and energy, sometimes like everyone is like, either more connected to that land or place versus others, and that's okay. I think that's why like mediums always say this too. It's like sometimes I may connect better here or not here. It's really a matter of our mental state, that whether the spirit even likes us, because like the man at that saloon liked Carl more than me, which makes sense. I'm a woman, and so he really connected more with him than me, which made sense. So I was like, okay, you take over, you try to channel him. So yeah.
Yeah, that's neat. So do you kind of divide and conquer based on whether the spirits are connecting with you versus Carl, and let them ride with it?
Yeah, like we'll take turns definitely to feel which spirit feels more welcomed. We went to this a ghost town in Santa Clarita, and the man on the Ovilus called me a wench. I'm like, all right, we're gonna have Carl take over because this man does not like me. He called me a wench, and Carl.
But isn't that good if you're riling him up a little bit and getting some activity from, even if it's negative? Like
I mean, sometimes like that. You're right. That can bring some energy for sure. I think for us, we try to take more of a gentle approach, just because like I think for us, it's easier to communicate with the spirit that's willing. So we kind of do consent-based channeling as well. So yeah.
That's awesome. So Jay, what does it mean for you to be a paranormal investigator?
I think to me, it's the question that everybody has, is what happens after we die. It's been a question asked for thousands of years, and they've created myths and stories and religions and beliefs and all kinds of things to try to explain what happens after we die. So being able to do this week after week, investigating and collecting evidence and, experiencing the things that I get to experience, it's basically that. It's an archaic revival to connect back to that ancient long question of what happens, and sum it up. Generally, there's much more than just this. Hands down, what we experience, what we see in our reality is just a small portion of what actually exists out there, and it's proven over and over again And I think that's what's exciting about the paranormal field as well, and how it's growing. There's more people doing it. The internet now and social media and YouTube, people are collecting data and evidence all around, where before it was kind of, you couldn't really talk about this stuff, or if you did, people would be like, you're crazy.
Right, it's growing. It's not becoming like a freak thing. Now
Exactly,
it's accepted by the general public. Like there are unusual things going on in our world that we cannot explain.
Yeah. And it's, if you're out there and you're having it, you're not alone. There's people all around the world that have been experiencing these things for literally thousands of years. Like I said, that's what creates myths. That's what creates, these stories that we hear, and people are still, we did a show called Ghost Adventures House Calls, where we focus on just helping people out with their homes. And, it was just, that was such a powerful experiment. And it was tough, too, because you have people's lives that are really hurting, and you have to provide them and try to help them the best way you can, and it was able to dive into that. And actually, I think we had a pretty good success rate. We're actually be able to help more people. So
yeah, how do you handle the emotions when it's someone's recent family member who died and that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's definitely tough, and those ones we try to tread lighter as much as we can. We've done investigations where we've had family members of where we're at come through, and they break down in tears, and I've cried. It's emotional. It's a powerful moment, but it's nice because it can give that person closure. It could give them a sense of hope that they'll see their loved one again one day, or that they're wherever they believe they're there waiting for them. Things like that. It gives people hope. It gives people.
No, it's important.
Like because honestly, we all agree. Like, I'm happy. I love life, but life fucking sucks sometimes. It kicks you in the ass sometimes, So I think everybody loves the idea of like, oh, there's more than just this. Like, we're not just stuck here. That like you have whatever you want to believe, like go for it. But like, there's so much more that you can go to.
No, that's neat. That's really neat. Danielle, when you enter a location, how do you decide whether to lean more scientific, spiritual, or intuitive?
I think it depends on the location and what kind of entities you're dealing with. I just recently discovered that I had psychic medium abilities, not to the sense where I can like see spirits, but I can definitely feel when they're around. I have this thing where I get like a tingle where my third eye would be, and it's the craziest feeling. And I actually asked Patty Negri about it, and she told me that that's a thing. And I was like, wow, okay, well, I guess I have abilities. So usually when I walk into a place now, because now I'm doing 2 to 3 investigations a week, I just kind of analyze the energy that I feel, what the tingles are feeling like, all of that stuff. And I kind of just use everything. I mean, I use scientific, all kinds of different stuff.
All together.
Yeah, I use it all together.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Austin?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think I have any abilities or anything like that. I do think, to Stephanie's point, like I can definitely like feel the hairs on my arm stand up, and feel when it gets colder, or just feel a different kind of mood. But I am very science based, so I always go in with equipment. I'm always trying to, because I'm also for like I do YouTube, so I'm always trying to capture something. Cameras are science. I'm always trying to use that. And so for me, I mean, normally, I don't think he's here tonight, but Brian, who does the Spirits of Spirits with me, he's more of the intuitive, spiritual one.
He's got the Native American vibe that's going on that he connects with for sure.
Yeah, I like cameras and ghost hunting. So I use that to the best of my ability. So I really rely more on science when I go into it, just more so with the equipment and the cameras.
Which I like, because you disprove, you want it debunked, so that if something happens, it's legit.
Well, yeah, because the internet will call me out on it. They'll call me a loser. And
and that's what I respect about the investigations we've done together, is that you don't just go, oh, there was a noise, that's freaky. We go, where was that noise from? How was it created? And if we can't debunk it, then it's exciting.
Yeah, because I mean, like, we all use K2 meters. Even here, I'm like, oh, I'm getting really never mind.
What's a K2 meter for
it's an EMF detector. So it's the the little handheld device with the ring of light that kind of goes up and down with activity. EMF is said to be a medium that we are able to communicate and kind of sense the presence. But there are times where you're holding it and you're like, oh, I think I really got... No, never mind. There's an outlet. All right, moving on.
Yeah, and that's important. Stephanie, how about you? When you enter a location, you decide whether it's more scientific, spiritual, or intuitive. How do you work around that?
Well, what got me into this was definitely knowing that ghost stories are history. So really understanding like the historical and cultural impact that these stories have lived and remained in these locations. And so when I enter these spaces, I'm aware of that, and I try to be historically accurate as well. And I really do use my abilities to just kind of like see and peel beyond that as well, and see if like what I'm getting matches those the stories that are being told at that location. But to everyone's point, I feel like there's a great beauty between like knowing that and also using equipment to be scientific about it as well. Like, how can my intuition pair up with what the equipment is getting and what the stories are? I think it's so important to also pair up with a historian too, because a lot of places sometimes will run with urban legends that are not, there's nothing behind that. It's just word of mouth, and we don't know if that's true. So a great example is I went to a place where there's not enough like historical evidence to back up the stories that were being told in this one location. And I didn't feel like I was in a room that was supposed to be the most haunted room. I didn't feel anything there. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna do like a tarot card spread here and see what I'm getting. And I just wasn't getting much of anything. And then we did the Estes method, didn't get anything either. And then later I ended up actually running into a historian, and they're like, yeah, that place has been debunked. I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad that like my abilities and divining and all this stuff I did matched up with what the historian was saying. So like, for me, that's the important part. So hope that answers.
Now, Stephanie, do you ever feel pressure to connect something even when it's not there? Or are you able to separate that and just go, I'm not feeling it?
I'm pretty honest. Like, I'm not feeling it. And I've been to some places where I know there's an owner there, and they're very touchy with that. And I'm like, look, I'm not feeling anything. I'm sorry. Maybe like they'll come through to Carl or someone else, but I'm not feeling anything. So like, I'm okay with saying that too. And I think that's also like a misconception. I think that like, just because the place is haunted doesn't mean it's like always active energy. I'm sure you know that. It's
absolutely.
Like, yeah. So.
And you can't force it. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. It's like when I've gone on whale watching trips in San Diego and all that. You can't force the whales to come out and see them just because you paid the tickets to do that kind of thing. But when you have those areas that are more prominently have activity than others, at least there's a good chance. But I'm the same way. I'm like, tonight it's not happening. And usually if we stay long enough, we'll get some activity and stuff. But you can't force it. You got to wait for them to talk to you and want to talk to you. So I feel you 100%. Jay, how do you go into approaching a paranormal investigation?
So for the show, obviously we have an audience that we're trying to show this to, so we always try to go scientific as we possibly can, trying to document, even if it's a single piece of activity, but trying to have it from multiple camera angles, multiple devices, things like that, so that way it's not just one single piece of evidence, because there's always going to be people that question, there's always going to be people that try to just be like, oh, it's nonsense. So the more you can tackle it with more angles, more pieces of devices, it's harder to debunk, it's harder to try to shoot it down. So it's best to do that. But then a lot of investigations, if it's just for fun, things like that, it's your own personal experience and you're not trying to document it necessarily. It's what you feel. And I think that's a lot, paranormal, investigators. There's a rush you get. There's a thing, like at the end of the day, it's like we do this because we love to do it, and we wouldn't be doing it if we didn't love to do it. And I think
Absolutely.
That's a big part of it.
And what is it like getting paid to do what you love for a living?
I grew up as a kid in New Jersey, like chasing the Jersey Devil through the Pine Barrens and sneaking into abandoned mental hospitals and things like that. So now I get to do it as a living and get paid for it. It's a dream. It's amazing.
I feel you on that one, because did the same thing in Louisiana. Couldn't afford shit, but I loved going to Marie Laveau's the graveyards and all the haunt. New Orleans is haunted as fuck, so we had a fantastic backdrop to grow up with.
Oh yeah, it's the way to do it, and I grew up doing it, and then I think too, I think your mindset plays a lot into it too. Like I always talk about, like my dad, love him to death, but he's like an electrical engineer. He's very he doesn't believe anything. I tell him stories, he's like okay, like he just is like doesn't
Do
believe
we have
it.
the same dad? Because he tells me the same thing.
Literally
brother?
same.
I don't know. I'm like half your age. I don't know.
But I know like if I brought him on an investigation, he probably wouldn't really have much of an experience. So I think there is a level of like it's almost like tuning a radio. Like you kind of have to have a mindset. You have to be open. You can be skeptical. I still approach every investigation I do as a skeptic. I'm not just going to walk in and be like, oh, it's haunted, it's this, it's that. I want to prove it. I want to document it. But like if you're completely shut off and no matter what, you're not going to be open-minded, you're probably not going to have the experience.
And that's just in life in general.
Absolutely.
If you're not open-minded, you're not going to experience what someone else is experiencing that's open-minded to that situation. So
Yeah.
I think that makes
100%.
complete sense. Do you ever have, being on TV, do you ever have that pressure of a producer going, we need something here? And like, do you ever feel that vibe?
No, I mean, honestly, that's one of the best things I love about our show. So even before our show, to back up, I worked in film and television my whole life. I've been a camera guy, sound guy, lighting. I've worked music videos, documentaries, films, all kinds of stuff. That's since 2002 I started working in movies and TV. And when I originally started in Ghost Adventures, they hired me as a sound guy. So I went into my first shoot just as a sound guy. I recorded the interviews. I left. I wasn't there for the investigation. And I did a lot of TV then, and a lot of TV is terrible, like just to say the least. But I remember watching that first episode of Ghost Adventures when it came out. I was like, oh, I want to see how it turned out. And I was, as a crew member, just a crew member, I was shocked and impressed at how real it was. Like that's actually what happened. It wasn't twisted. It wasn't made to look a certain way. Like play by play, that's how it actually played out. And we've been lucky where the four of us, we have creative control. Like Zach leads us, and but we all throw our ideas out there. We all have free reign to kind of come up with whatever we want to do, how we want to tackle things. We don't have producers that tell us what to do or to say do this or say that way or do it again, or it's
So you
literally
can kind of
just
throw
us.
out ideas on real time, like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm feeling it over here. Let's switch to this room.
Exactly. That's actually how I originally got on the show. I was just doing the sound, and we went down. We filmed in Jamaica at Johnny Cash's house, which was amazing. Like I'm a music. My first love was music, and that's what got me into filmmaking. Is actually making music videos for my crappy bands through middle school and high school. And so we were in Johnny Cash's house, and like I said, I wasn't there for the investigation at the time because I would just do the first half of the show, and then. A couple episodes later, Zach plays an EVP for me, and you hear him say, do you like Johnny Cash's music? And you hear this, yeah. And he's like, doesn't that sound like Johnny Cash? And I'm like, it actually does. I was like, what you could do, you could take that EVP, do a waveform analysis, and basically get like a digital fingerprint of the voice, and then compare it to a sample of a real Johnny Cash voice, and then overlay the waveforms and see if you get like a match. And he's like, you can do that? I'm like, yeah, I'm a tech nerd. That's what I do. And he's like, well, you're going to do it. And he brought me in front of camera to start doing that, and then after that it was kind of history, and then just kept coming up with ideas, and but that just having that free reign of creativity. And even now we just went out, and every episode it's just like, all right, what can we do different? We're always trying to push and come up with new methods, new ways, new equipment. We're always researching new technologies, things like that, but then also using old technologies but maybe in a different way to kind of keep trying to push the field, because we're lucky. We're very grateful and lucky that we have an audience, and we see that, so we're able to kind of help try to introduce things, help push people, to inspire people to keep this going. And, and ultimately the more people that does this and more people that shares their stories, we're going to know more definitive answers of what's actually going on.
That's neat. I'm glad to hear that, because I love hearing that that it's a creative process that you can kind of control, and you're not just told what to do.
Exactly.
I
don't think I would be doing it in my 16th year with the show if it was any other way.
Yeah. How many seasons have y'all had of Ghost Adventures at this point?
It's debatable because they kind of break it up weird on how they air things.
Divide it in half. And
but like
half
I think
in the beginning of the year, half at the end of the
what
year.
we're calling, so next week on Wednesday, our 2-hour special comes out on Discovery Plus, and we're calling that season 30. Is from what I know, whether it's technically
that's
29,
cool.
31, I don't
30
know. 30
seasons.
But we're calling it season 30.
Yeah.
Is what we've
That's
been
a
saying.
successful endeavor, I would say.
It's been amazing.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Okay, well, that's cool. Danielle, how do you personally separate fear from fascination when you're deep in an investigation?
I'll wait. I don't get any sort of fear when I investigate. So
Ever?
Ever.
Of any
I've
spot
never-
you've ever been to, you've never been scared?
I've never gotten scared.
built
Oh,
different.
shit. I can't even say that.
I've never gotten scared. And I've been
I've
all
been
over.
scared at my own house and here.
Yeah, I heard about the house. I'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah, that's tomorrow.
Well, I've been investigating since I was 12. And nothing really scares me. The living scares me more than the dead.
True. Living people are scarier.
They are.
How about you, Austin?
Yeah, so I mean, I've only ever done a handful of investigations. I've done a lot of them, but here, hosting them. For me, I mean, I've never, here at the Pioneer, I've only maybe been scared once, and it was just because something happened that, like...
Yeah, there was one time you freaked out for real. I
Me?
remember, yeah, at the Pioneer investigation. I'm just saying.
Which time was that?
I
I'm
know.
trying to remember, make sure I
No,
black
you,
out?
maybe.
you're like, that was a messed up night last night that I had.
So I think
Yeah.
the one I'm talking about is we had a big group, and somebody came here and they brought something with them, and it was talking very negatively. It said like I'm the devil at one point, and we were like, that's not what we normally get here at the Pioneer. But in terms of legitimately like.
And didn't they start arguing with
Yes,
each with
yes.
the
He was-
entity that was here?
He was
and
having an argument with the entity through the spirit box, to where Brian, my co-host, was like, "Hey man, we're not doing that here. You're not gonna bring your baggage here at the Pioneer and then drop it on us," which he actually ended up doing, and it lingered here for a few weeks. But one of the only times I've kind of ever really had a underlying fear is actually where we're doing the VIP tour tomorrow night, which by the way we still have a few tickets available, so just gonna plug that.
Right.
Here at the Pioneer, I don't think there's a couple of entities that might be a little meaner than you'd like, but at the private residence where I went with you, it felt like something was like holding onto my back every time I walked through the hallway. It's the only time I'd like actually been like almost shaking nervous to do an investigation. But the way I kind of do it is I just kind of keep grounded with something that helps a lot is focusing on like, all right, I'm just going to look at Brian, and Jay probably knows this. I'm just going to look at the viewfinder on the camera. Can't hurt
By
people.
private residence, you mean my fucking house.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not going to put you out there like that, Steven.
Thanks.
But
No, you're right. There is something negative there that
Yeah.
doesn't exist at the saloon.
No, not at all.
So and for those that do want to participate, tonight's VIP tour with Jay Wasley will be here at the Pioneer Saloon. Tomorrow's will be at our resident down the street. If you're into that next level stuff, like I said, I think there's more negativity going on there. Even the guy that sold it to us, I've heard, sold it because he couldn't handle it anymore. Even our neighbor to this day says sometimes I get your negative energy, the spirits coming through my own house, and he knows it's not from his house, it's from mine. And I'm like, I get it. It's so that will be interesting.
And now for one low fee, you too can experience that. So
Yes.
go talk to the bartenders up front if you want to do that tour.
Thanks for the marketing.
Of course,
putting on your
just doing my
marketing
job.
hat. Stephanie, how about you?
Okay. Okay. So it's interesting because I've been, practicing for well over a decade, and I feel like for me, because I come from like the spiritualist side, I don't really get scared. I think I've learned along the way too that humor and music is the best way to snap out of the fear. So
Nice.
I remember the first time when I was filming for Mysteries Decoded. We went to the Leonis Adobe House in Calabasas, and there were moments where I was feeling a little nervous and a little bit anxious, and I literally had a playlist. I did a K-pop playlist, and so like in between shoots, I would just put on my AirPods and just like jam out to K-pop music. It's just a way to ground myself and make myself feel elevated and just good and not scared. And I think that's for anybody really. If you feel like the vibes are off, like literally make a joke, humor, literally that will literally just banish off whatever negativity, because ultimately a lot of the stuff that you are experiencing is anxiety, but also it's really all in your mind too. So you really just want to have a good mindset when you're into this stuff and really just check your mental health, right?
That's a good lesson in life. Humor and music
Yeah.
solves a lot of issues.
Yeah. Like I've done, so for example, I've also done house cleansings, and before I go to someone's house, like I do a reading, I do over the phone consultations before I go to chat with that person and do the house cleansing. I'm like, before I go to your house, I just want to check your mental health first. Like, are you feeling good? Like, where are you at? Like, what can we do first? We need to work on that first, because even if I go to your house and I do a cleansing and I banish off whatever's there, if you're feeling anxious and you keep thinking about it, then it's not going to go away. Like, you need to feel empowered as well. So I think
So that person has to be open to a cleansing of their house.
Yes.
Otherwise, that energy is going to stay.
Yeah. Like, open to also empowering themselves too, because like I always leave, I give them a checklist of what to do even after I leave. Like, look, you're stronger than you know. This is what we're in this plane. This is your plane. This is not their plane. You're stronger than that. So I think for me, like, I started off just doing readings like with people first, and then over the years I segued into mediumship and working with like entities above this plane. So I think that's why I don't really get bad experiences or anything negative. The one time I did was at a cemetery with these Navajo paranormal investigators, and again they reinforced that lesson too, music and just like challenging it. Something came in and said, fight me.
Was that Shanklen?
Yes.
Okay.
And he's like, well, what's my real name then? And like he started challenging the spirit and exchange, like, well, what's my real name? And then silence. I'm like, that's what I thought. So like, again, you are stronger than you think. So that's just my answer. Yeah.
That's very interesting. And when you do cleansing, do you do sage? How do you cleanse a house?
Yeah, so I do have like a close practice. So when I do these, I do a ritual that is part of a close practice, and I actually use frankincense, and I use holy water that's been blessed by more than one priest. So it's a whole process of how I do it. Sage is great too, but frankincense is more universal as well. So I have a different process, and I do a whole ritual with it, and it is close practice, so that's as far as I can say. But
She has an NDA.
yeah, NDA.
No, that's cool,
Yeah.
and that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
I have a company called Vegas Voodoo that has good luck charms, and we've been around for years and years. And this one girl, Barbara Cochran from Shark Tank, actually featured us on the NBC's Today Show, and they featured our Sell Your House spell kit, which ironically, like what you're talking about, frankincense and stuff, that's Catholic tradition. And ironically, even though we're called Vegas Voodoo and we're like, oh, voodoo is evil and all this kind of stuff, I was like, this is a spell kit based on a Catholic tradition of burying a St. Joseph statue in your yard to help sell a property. And she had seen so much positive data from people that use St. Joseph and our spell kits that she put it on national news, and it was like a free commercial, which was amazing. But I had to remind people, I'm like, just so you know, this is a Catholic tradition. It's not a authentic Haitian voodoo tradition that you should automatically think is evil. So once again, open your mind and those kind of things. So that's funny. I just noticed you mentioned frankincense.
Frankincense is more universal, and it really has been used forever for like exorcisms and stuff like that. So if you are curious and you don't want to use sage, frankincense is another alternative.
Awesome. How about you, Jay? What about the fear factor? Does that come into play occasionally?
I have a reoccurring shipments of new underwear every month. Not really. I don't do that. Just for the record.
You don't wear underwear.
No, it's pointless.
Why would I know that?
Yeah. But I've been absolutely terrified so many times, countless times at this point. I've witnessed exorcisms. I've witnessed possessions. I've seen things lift off the ground, go flying. I've had scratches appear on my body out of nowhere. We were filming in Prescott, Arizona, and there was an old saloon that they felt there was an evil entity that lived in the basement through a crawl space, and I got sent in there by myself, so I'm crawling on my belly through this crawl space. I have one camera, and I called it out because nothing was happening, and then all of a sudden I felt something grab my leg. I dropped the camera in front of me. You could see me, and you see there's nothing behind me, and I actually get dragged backwards like a good 3 or 4 feet on camera.
Oh, shit.
And there's nothing there, and I'm a big dude, and I'm in this crawl space that's like this big. I'm kicking, freaking out, losing my mind. Dust is flying everywhere, and it's pitch black, like you couldn't see. And then I remember Aaron heard me the commotion and popped his head in where I climbed in, and I saw his light, and I just beelined it, just crawling out as hard as I could. And then the problem is too, right, as soon as you get out, you're comprehending all this, and there's a camera in your face, like, what just happened? Explain it. And I'm just like,
yeah,
I
you're
kind of got
frazzled,
yeah,
right?
I'm like, not all here.
Is that hard to do when you got a camera And you're all fucked up from an experience, and then you gotta like.
Yeah, you still gotta be like, oh, I still gotta
it.
explain what's going on, you know, and it takes time. I mean, obviously, you know, we're out there for a long time, and it's edited down, so there is time where it's like, all right, I need a minute to calm down, and then we'll go back and kind of like, all right, this is what just happened, things like that. One real quick, one of the most terrifying things ever to happen to me was long before I was even on the show. I was probably around 18 years old, and I was playing with a Ouija board. And we just got done band practice, and we're like, all right, we want to go all out tonight. We lit candles, incense. We had a dagger, a water dish, anything ritualistic we could find. We're like, we just want to experience it. And then we start doing the board, and it says we're speaking to a little boy. And disclaimer: don't ever believe what you're talking to. You know, they'll say they're children, they'll say they're family members or things like that, and it might be, and it's beautiful and that's great, but be aware that a lot of things mimic, a lot of things pretend to be things to weaken you, to break down your defense, and then they can try to overtake you. But anyway, it said it was this little boy, and it kept saying its name was Z, and then O, and then Z, and it would go around the board, and I was like, okay, whatever. We just called it Z at the time. And I noticed the incense smoke was blowing down to the dagger. And I was like, that's kind of weird. So I picked up the dagger, moved it to the other side of the board. The incense changed and went down to the dagger again. I'm like, all right. I was like, guys, check this out. So I start moving the dagger all around the board, and everywhere I move it, the incense goes to the dagger. And I was like, all right, that's kind of crazy, right? So then I asked the spirit, I said, are you attracted to the dagger? And it says yes. And I'm like 17, 18 years old, don't know what I'm doing. And then I asked the stupidest question I've ever asked my entire life. Can you come through the dagger into us? And it went right to yes. So we all stopped. We're like, all right, well, this is what we wanted to do, though. Like, that's why we went all out tonight. So we're like, all right, who's going to do it? So my buddy and my friend, myself and my friend, we decide we'll be the ones to hold it. The dagger's in a sheath, so you can hold the blade part. So we lay on our backs. We each hold an end of the knife, and we're like, okay, you can come through us now. And I just got instant overwhelmed sadness, like in my muscles, like down to your bone, just like a feeling of sadness, which is so surreal to feel. And then my buddy jumps up. I'm on my back still on the ground. His knees are now on my shoulder, and he's trying to pull the dagger out of the sheath. And he's just doing it. He breaks it open and lunges it towards my throat. And he's on top of me, so he has all gravity, everything on it. I'm holding him like this. The dagger's now past my chin, at my neck, and I'm shaking, holding him back as hard as I can from just shoving the knife through my throat. This lasts probably a good 15 seconds. He goes totally numb, starts full crying, like waterworks, just tears for days. And he had no idea what you. Yeah, he had no idea what happened. He just went limp and just started crying and had no idea what happened. And we're like, all right, we're good, we're done. Let's get out of here.
So what happened? Was he possessed? In your opinion, like what
I think so. Now, knowing what I know now, I think he did get overtaken by this spirit. And fast forward, we were filming in Oklahoma many years later at this house. And there was a guy that lived in the house that he's like the forefront of this with Ouija boards. And there's a demon known as Zozo that comes through Ouija boards. It's a worldwide phenomena that it pops up all around the world. Wow. And I was like, oh shit, like that's the name that we got back then. And then I remember at that time, like I've told this story a few times on podcasts, things like that. But at that time, I've never told this story. And during the show, on the episode, the guy Daryl and myself, we do the Ouija board. And he doesn't know me. No one knows this story. And then we started talking. It says it's Zozo. And I said, have we ever met? Right to yes. And I said, wow. What did you try to do? And it spelled out kill. And I'm like, howl. And it spelled out stab. And I was like, all right, that just totally justifies that whatever this Zozo demon phenomena that's going around is
that's pretty
true.
Direct answers.
Yeah, exactly.
How did you kill? Stab.
Right, yeah.
So let me ask about Ouija boards, because that's a contentious issue here at the Pioneer Saloon. Because we have a Ouija board here tonight, which I'll probably bring out after the panel's done in between the VIP.
I have one in my car.
Oh, awesome.
I, for the record, do not use one. I mean, they're more experienced than me, but I'm not going to. I'll watch from a distance.
Well, the truth is, and I'm like, none of my staff will touch it. And so I have to come bring it out, and they're scared of it.
They hate when I bring it in.
Yeah,
they hate
it. They do. They think
it's
they think it's the cause of anything negative that night. What are your feelings on Ouija boards?
So
Jay?
I think Ouija boards get a bad rap. I think it is you're opening up a doorway, and like I said earlier, it says it's a kid. It says it's a family member. You put your guard down, and anything can come through. I think Ouija boards is probably one of the oldest divination tools that we have. It even goes back farther, like way back, like during witches' time, they would use flour and that way they would draw letters and use glasses and things, and that way if someone walked in quick, they could just get rid of it and not be like, you're a witch, and get in trouble, you know?
So it's a legitimate source of
Exactly.
connecting.
But then I argue with myself, which I do often, and it's quite a sight, where, like, when you think about it, though, even just doing a spirit box, you're still opening that doorway. Even doing an EVP session, even just speaking out loud to communicate to something else, you're still opening a connection to another world. I think Ouija boards, so to me, there's really no difference between Ouija boards, an Ovilus or a spirit box or any device you have, or even just trying to openly talk and communicate. You're still putting that energy, you're still opening up that line
So it's kind of a mechanism of
Right.
opening up that energy.
Right, but I think because it's been around so long, and you could literally you can go to a toy aisle at a store and buy it.
That's what I'm conflicted on. It's a Parker Brothers game.
Right.
But to your point, the side of the aspect of it and using a board in a way of communicating has gone back thousands
goes
of
way
years.
back, yeah.
But it's just one way that people currently use to connect. And it's interesting. Stephanie, do you use that Ouija boards?
I do have a few different Ouija boards. I don't know. I feel for me, I do use divination. So let me rewind. So basically, I feel like tarot, oracle cards, pendulums, dowsing rods, talking boards, they're all part of divination. So they're all the same thing in a sense that we're kind of using the similar mechanism to divine and speak to other things that are not here. And so obviously you want to be careful the same way that people who are tarot card readers, they do a ritual before, right? Whether it's a small prayer, whether it's cleansing their cards. It's the same thing with talking boards. Like, you should do the same practices. Like, you should have a ritual before and after. I actually always cleanse even my equipment before and after. I always seal it with a protection symbol before and after, and I do my own little thing. So I think whether it's equipment, whether it's divination tools, you should always be very cautious with what you're speaking to. And use the same type of caution of wanting to cleanse and protect your stuff. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
And that's how I look at it too, because Ouija boards don't scare me just by nature, but I've had some crazy shit happen when I've used them through the years as a kid and as an adult. And so I can't discount the things that happen with that. But to me, it's just one of many mechanisms people can use to connect with the spiritual world, which to me isn't scary. And I guess that's the difference. My staff is scared as fuck over the Ouija boards, and they literally won't touch them. I have to go into the closet. They don't want them they want them in a different building.
You could just turn the bar into a big Ouija board.
Yes, seriously, that's what it sometimes comes down to. Because I'm like, I can't. I don't have a lot of storage space out here, guys. Like, I can't go. I don't have an extra building to put the thing in. But they don't want to be around it. It's a negative thing to them, where it's not to me.
Can I
Nicole,
add something?
please.
Yeah. Every time I've used the board here, actually every time I ever use a board, the planchette always likes to go in circles. So I always say it's opening up a portal, so I close it real quick. But the first time I started doing it was here.
Oh,
So-
interesting.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. So I may have opened a portal. I'm sorry.
Thanks a lot for that,
So-
Danielle.
Well, and you guys can experience that tonight if you get the VIP
There
tour.
you go. There you go. Well, actually, I wanted to add one more thing to that too. I think
Yep.
also the reason why talking boards and Ouija boards get bad rep is because, to Jay's point, it's one of the oldest things. So any spirit can recognize that. It's one of the most recognizable symbols in everything. Versus a spirit that died before, a spirit box was invented, or they're not going to know how to communicate either. Because that's another thing. You do have to sometimes guide ghosts and spirits to communicate.
Yeah.
They don't know how to use the equipment, modern equipment. So yeah, you're going to get more activity with a talking board that is arguably the most recognizable thing ever. So yeah.
No, good point. Good point.
Yeah,
Danielle, are there any misconceptions about what you do versus what the public thinks you do?
Yeah. So I hid what I did for a really long time. I just recently started my business in May. So I just recently started really.
And what's your
diving into
business
it.
called?
It's called Vegas Afterlife. So I feel like a lot of people think that doing anything involving the paranormal involves satanic stuff or occult stuff, and it's not like that. So a lot of people are like, oh, you're diving into demonic stuff. You shouldn't be doing that. Blah, blah, blah. Save your soul. And I'm like, oh, my soul is saved, baby. But a lot of people think it's evil and stuff. And I'm like, it's not evil. I there's a
You
lot
just
of
want to
positive.
connect with it.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what's wrong with that. Yeah. And people can put up a shield or whatever and just say, you're doing bad and you're opening things, but they don't even know what you're doing. Really.
I feel like everybody thinks I have like pentagrams drawn on the walls in my room and
You
stuff.
don't? Oh, okay.
Maybe I do.
I'm saying I do.
Yeah. Some of us do.
Not me.
But no, they're just symbols, and
Yeah.
they represent things that a lot of people don't. People don't even realize the swastika was stolen by the Nazis. It actually represented a spiritual
It's
thing.
Buddhism for good luck, right?
That's right, and they turned it negative. But for thousands of years, it was not a negative symbol. So there's a lot of.
I don't think we're taking that one back, though, just for the record.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much shot.
It's been tainted
Yeah.
too
The
much.
Nazis have the swastika. At this point, it's a negative thing. So, but very good point. We're never getting that one back. Austin, how about you? What misconceptions do you deal with?
Yeah, so a lot of what I get is I'll tell people, oh yeah, I do, ghost hunts and I lead paranormal tours, and they're like, oh, so you just like kind of just hold a candle out and just go, anybody here? And I'm like, no, I've gotten to know the entities here. I've gotten to understand kind of like their quirks, if you will. But I kind of probably repeat a lot of what Danielle said of, people are just like, oh, you're going to, like my grandmother, up until she recently passed away, told me, she was like, you're not going to go to heaven because you're playing with these ghosts. I'm like, Grandma, I think there's other things to be concerned about right now than gas prices are really crazy. But like, and I think for me, a lot of the misconceptions, and I've talked to Jay about this. I've talked about this on my show. Is I'm not a very religious person, so to say. Because a lot of people come to me and they're like, well, if you don't believe in, a heaven or hell, then how can you believe in ghosts? And it's like, well, I have other theories and stuff like that.
What are some of your other theories?
Do we have time? Or
Yeah, absolutely.
One of them, I
That's
kinda,
what the whole night is about.
yeah, sure. So one of them is kind of like we are in like a dimension of sorts, and these beings that we're talking to, not necessarily in a heaven or hell, but they're in a different wavelength than us. That's why we use things like a spirit box to communicate with them, because it's a sense that we can't see. I'm trying to remember if I think there was like a scientific thing that said like we only see like 5% of the visible spectrum or something
That's
crazy.
less. It's about 1/1000th of a percent.
Oh, there you go.
I
So-
failed my junior class in calculus. Seriously, this is a true story. I was in junior year of high school. I was in calculus. Sorry to take it away from you, but
No, they're
I
really
was,
they're here for you,
That's
Joe.
the
I was in
reason for a
calculus.
panel, yeah.
Right, and I remember the first semester I got an A. I learned a bunch of stuff, and I realized I was like, I started thinking, and then I spent the entire rest of the year. Every time I would go in that class, I mathematically equated how much of reality we actually experience. So I ended up failing the class because I didn't do any homework. I didn't do any studying. I failed every test. And I remember at the end of the year, the teacher's like, you failed. I was like, but look, I actually mathematically, I did all these formulas.
Look at my findings.
I used what I learned, and then I expanded it to mathematically equate our experience of reality, which, to sum it up briefly, without, lecture board and going through it, I basically took like what our reality is based off is our 5 senses. That's what defines our reality. And each of our 5 senses, we know our limitations. So like simple like is sound. Like sound is one way we perceive our reality. We know like dogs, there's a dog whistle. Dogs hear that whistle, we don't. So that means it exists beyond what we can experience. And we know that through the electromagnetic spectrum.
Great point.
And fields and wavelengths of light. We only see the visible light spectrum, but there's IR, there's UV, there's gamma rays, there's, it's a huge spectrum. So I basically took each of our 5 senses and converted it into a mathematical equation and then at the end of the day, it worked out we experienced about 1/100000th of a percent of what we know to exist.
Wow.
Yeah, I
That's-
failed remedial math, so I'm not going to attempt that.
No, but that's amazing.
Yeah.
But and very good points. It's proven that we only can see and hear a small spectrum of reality. So why wouldn't there be another reality that we can't see or hear?
Sure.
And then I had a friend of mine that even told me, he said, maybe what we're experiencing is a wrinkle in time. Like you're seeing something that there's a glitch in a timeline because it's just like every other dimension. It's a timeline,
Well,
and it can be skewed, and you might be seeing that person that you're seeing from the 1800s that's walking through that wall that used to be a door. That is a wrinkle in time that you're just seeing in the past.
I've literally seen like glitches. Like I was walking through the woods one time and I literally saw this like glitch. I was like, did I just see a glitch? I've never seen something like that before. And it wasn't my eyes. It wasn't dark out. It's just like, I can't even explain what I saw.
Yeah.
It was the weirdest thing.
Isn't that like with the whole Wrinkle in Time? I mean, that's kind of like the whole point of like residual hauntings is like something that's kind of stuck in a loop. I know I already know the story Jay's going to tell. About
Which one?
The Conjuring House.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
That
about
plays
that
in
Wrinkle, the Wrinkle in Time. But the other theory, because I'm going to have a layup for Jay here, something called the stone tape theory, which I actually learned from Jay, and just briefly, and he'll explain it way better than me. Basically, like, you know, nowadays when people are passing away, they're passing away much more gradually. It's not a sudden, abrupt release of energy. It's a slow, you know, kind of almost like a plane landing, as opposed to, like here with Paul Akosky, is a very violent, abrupt death. And so energy can't be created or destroyed. It just gets transferred. So you kind of like coat the room in the energy of that person. To kind of briefly, I know Jay will go way better into depth.
But that's a great point that Einstein made about energy, and goes to this day. You can't. The electricity of your body has to go somewhere. When you die, it just doesn't just disappear. It has to go somewhere. So where does it go? You know, like.
Yeah, well, it makes sense to me too. If you walk up and down the same hallway every day of your life, and you pass away, there's still a little bit of your energy that might flow back and forth in that hallway. And under the right variables, the right circumstances, the right equipment, you can document a piece of that energy. And that's what we would call a residual haunting. To kind of add to what Austin was saying, I'm not going to tell you about the Conjuring House, but it was awesome.
Oh, come on.
No,
Come
I mean, I
on,
can.
Jay.
But
Can't legally.
no,
You
yeah.
got legal obligations.
That's because I bought it. No, I'm just kidding. That wasn't me.
News here.
News. Breaking news.
No, it wasn't me, and it's nobody I know. So, so Conjuring House. We interviewed one of the kids that was actually in the original family that started everything about the story.
Wow.
So she told us a lot of inside information, told us everything about how the movie was wrong, and which is kind of crazy now because everyone loves the Conjuring House, especially right now. And I'm not knocking it; it's cool in its own right. But the movie is what's essential. It made it what it is, and it's not even. It's totally fiction. The movie. It's like
interesting.
Like the stories, and
So
basically,
is the real story better than the movie, or
it's not as like graphic, intense. And to me, I think it had a happy ending, honestly. So what the daughter told me, I don't know if we even got this on camera or not. Maybe we did. I forget.
We do now.
But she was telling us that at first it was terrifying, right? Her mom was the one that was having the experiences at first and seeing these spirits and freaking out. But what she learned over time is that she was just seeing into another time, and that it was another family that lived in that house prior to them, and that she saw that. And once she actually accepted that and realized that's what was happening, she was calm. It wasn't scary. It wasn't dark. It was like you're sharing this, and it goes into so many theories of like how time doesn't even exist. It's created. We created the clock. Why is there only so many hours? Like we line it up with the sun and moon and things, and we give it reason, but there's really no such thing as time.
That's huge.
So there's a whole theory of like time, everything that's happened, will happen, and could happen is all happening at the same time, but it's your perspective. It's your consciousness that's creating this perspective, and this is what I'm experiencing right now. But there's an infinite amount of possibilities that are also happening all at the same time.
That's
but
cool.
my brain waves tap in, and this is the TV channel I get to watch.
Right, and we're only so smart, like and that's what I point out too. Like our brains cannot probably comprehend the spiritual level of the universe as it is. Just we don't have the comprehension of that. We're advanced animals, yes, but can we really comprehend everything that goes around us in the universe and expanded galaxies? And
I think we've lost a lot of it too, honestly. I think, prior, like early humans, we were more in tune. We watched this, the sky was our television, so we noticed the stars, we noticed movement, we were more in tune, we were connected to the earth. Modern society kind of draws us out of that, and we're in a digital age, and we lose a lot of that connection.
No, you're right, because we're looking at our phones all day long, and then we've got, but if you can see how someone back in the day spiritually, that was the sun.
Absolutely.
Is your God. It's providing you light and food and sustainability and that kind of thing. And so is water, and the spirits in the water or something, and that's something we've
and
lost.
it's true. It plays into, there's a really good if you go home tonight and you can't sleep, Google the Japanese water experiments. And what this was, it was a Japanese scientist that took water samples from different areas. Like they took it from like the beautiful spring water from the mountains, and they froze it. And when they looked at it under a microscope, it formed these beautiful crystals, like symmetrical, beautiful crystals. Then he took a sample of water from like the gutter in the city, froze that, looked at that under a microscope, and it was disfigured, ugly-looking crystals. So then he took it a step further. He took what was beautiful water, and he projected hate. He projected negativity. He literally took the water and yelled at it. I hate you. I'm going to kill you. You're ugly. All this stuff, just projected negative energy. And then he froze that beautiful water. But now when he froze it, it formed all these disfigured crystals. And he repeated this over and over again. And he would take the water that was originally disfigured from the gutter, and he projected love to it. He projected happiness. He told the water he loved it and it's beautiful, things like that. And when he refroze it, now it formed beautiful symmetrical crystals, like sacred geometry, beautiful looking things. And this was repeated. It's scientific, it's documented. It was repeated over and over and over again. And it basically taught the fact that your energy can actually change you on a molecular level. So positive and negative energy, to me, that's what exists. Things are positive or negative. And the stone tape theory, if, we're in a building that there was a mass murder, that's a lot of negative energy. In organic surfaces, this wood has water in it. Anything organic has some amount of water in it. And we know now that your feelings, your energy, negative or positive, can molecularly change water. What's that doing to our own bodies? What's that doing to the wood, under here? That there's like a memory that's stored if it's a crazy, if someone's axe murdered right here, this wood's going to have a bit of that negative energy. Yeah. And we come in and we investigate and we could pick up on that energy.
That's interesting. That is fascinating. Like, completely makes sense. And it's like we got to step outside of our own minds on a spiritual level to understand what we're talking about here. Like, and that's hard to do. Mm-hmm. The day-to-day stuff, you get caught up in the material world of things, and it's hard to step outside of that. But that's a fascinating way of looking at it that I've never thought about. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to share.
That's very cool.
I feel like this is stuff that they should teach you in school, you know?
But yeah, what class would you take in high school to cover this?
If anyone works at a college, I'm happy to teach Paranormal 101.
So Danielle, is there one instance of anything you've done with your investigations that really stuck out for you and is in your mind to this day that you would be interested in sharing with the crowd?
Yeah, it was very recent. Just happened at the Haunted Museum, and it involved the Artemis fractal painting that just recently got put in there. I did an investigation there with my friend Allie for right before our birthdays, because our birthdays are a week apart. And I was just sitting in the dark in front of this painting, and I felt myself just getting pulled. Like I just was getting absorbed into this painting. I couldn't stop looking at it. It was pulling me in. And a week prior to that, I went with Patty Negri to the Haunted Museum so she could feel this painting, because I knew that this painting, there was something wrong with it. And Patty was like, there's something elemental connected to this. So then I go back a week later and investigate it. So I'm sitting there, and Allie, I walk away from the painting, and Allie goes near the painting after I walked away, and she said she didn't feel anything. But when I was next to it, she felt this static energy coming off of it. So there was something that was connected to the painting that was connected to me. So I'm sitting there, and she's freaking out because she sees this white anomaly flying around above me over this painting. And we had the spirit box going, and we hear this emergency broadcast sound just blare through the spirit box so loud. And I don't know if that was just because there was a thunderstorm coming and there was an emergency broadcast thing coming through the radio. I don't know, but her and I both freaked out, and we were trying to get out of the door, and the door wouldn't open, so we're screaming. So we finally got the door open, but I think that was a recent thing that happened that kind of scared me.
Yeah, that's intense.
Yeah, because I was oh my God, is this painting possessing me? I don't know. I didn't know what was going on. It was scary.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would stick out with me as well.
Yeah, her and I still talk about it.
Well, yeah, and I remember, I just got back from a celebration of life for my uncle, Don Misher, who has, they call it, you have a lot of glass if you won 15 Emmy Awards. And he was a big director and producer. He produced the Oscars and the Emmys and the Grammys and the so on and so forth. He was a live events producer and phenomenal, but he had a neat connection to life, and his first wife, Beverly, was definitely a witch. And we would go to her house, and weird shit would happen every time we're there. Not to mention we'd notice like the herbs on the top of the doorways and on the powder on the bottom. I'm like, oh, you know what you're doing, and because I understand some of that shit. And it was fascinating. But like one time I was at her house, and I was with this girl, and somebody walked by the doorway, and she was like, oh, is that your friend Wes? And I was like, no, he's not supposed to be here for like 3 more hours. And sure enough, he wasn't there for 3 more hours, but we both saw him. It both happened. To the two of us, it wasn't just one of us saw something out of the corner of our eye. We distinctively said, this person is here. And it stuck with me for all these years, because I swear I cannot explain why that would have happened, and why we would both see the same apparition with someone that didn't show up for several more years. So is it ever possible that you see an apparition of someone who's still alive? Does anybody have any context on that one?
I've heard a story. I think Jeff Belanger was telling me. He's a writer in the paranormal field. He was one of our researchers for a while, and he told me a story once about a family where it was like it was a boy and a mom living in a house, and then the mom went out, and then I forget how it went, one way or the other, and then basically he saw his mom like sitting in the living room and like, what are you doing? I thought you were going to the store. And she wouldn't respond. She wouldn't answer. And then he's like, whatever, and just walks to his room. And then like an hour later, he hears the door, and it's his mom coming home. And she's like, oh, I've been out the whole time. But he swears he saw her there. Now, like, there's theories of like, if it's, it kind of can play into like the energy. Like maybe she's in there and she sits in that spot all the time. Some of her energy's there, even though she's not there right now. She's not dead, but her energy is still lingering, and he picked up on that somehow. But there's also things like mimicking, things like that, where spirits will pretend to be people, like look like people, or even sound like people. We've investigated many locations where we've heard our voices and thought it was like one of us, like calling to us.
It was your own voices.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. That fascinates me. That's interesting.
That gets really creepy when that happens.
Austin from the Truly Bizarre, what's your most intense experience?
So my most intense was actually my second ever paranormal investigation. It was actually, and Steven's gonna love this, was at the studio that we met at, that I used to work at, that you did your show at.
Sure.
We had a lot of weird things happen. We'd have people who would come in there, and they're psychics or mediums, and they're like, I don't feel comfortable here, I'm gonna leave. And we're like, okay. So we were like, there's something happening here. So we did an investigation. And a few years prior, I had a best friend who passed away from COVID. And we weren't necessarily trying to communicate with him, but 20 minutes into our investigation, we're using the spirit box in one of the studio rooms. And we hear, basically, I hear a voice that sounds like his, to kind of further that point. I'm like, that kind of sounds like him. And so, Noah, who does one of the shows with me, she was like, is this Christian? And you hear, yeah, on the spirit box. I'm like, okay, what month is it? And he goes, March. And we're like, it's March, okay. And then Brian, who was there with us, goes, who's sitting across from me? And the spirit box was delayed for a couple seconds, and then went, Austin. And at the time, I just broke down in tears. I mean, it's all on video, of course, my shining moment of me crying. But it was just like, it was so visceral, because it was like, I had done the investigation here. I kind of was like already now leaning more towards, okay, there's definitely something out there that we can't explain. But then to have that happen, it was like, oh, it just, here I'm detached. Sure, I know Flynn, I know the employees and everything, but this is a best friend of mine from second grade until we were, in our early 20s.
I remember you were viscerally upset on that one.
Yeah, it took me, like Jay says, they were still rolling, and so I was like, I'm gonna take a minute out by where we had all our video village at. So, but yeah, no, that's one that still, like, I can remember it vividly to this day. Even, that was 3 years ago at this point. So,
oh, that's neat. Stephanie, is there one experience that has stuck out for you above all other experiences that you've had?
Well, I kind of want to like add into the whole mimic story actually. So it's going to kind of tie into more modern times, but when I was a kid, I used to live in this house in Minneapolis, and there was this one time, this is before cell phones, I'm a kid of the 90s, and I remember that we had the window open. We're on the second floor. It's me and my sister, and I have two sisters. So one of them was working at a Chuck E. Cheese 45 minutes away, and we heard her call my name 3 times. So I thought for the longest time ever that was a prank. Somehow we checked the house. She wasn't there. We called her job. Her boss answered, and he's like, "Is this an emergency?" So I'm like, "Yes." I'm panicking. I just heard my sister Erica. So he passes the phone to her. She's in the bathroom at Chuck E. Cheese cleaning, and she's annoyed that we're calling her. She's like, "I just want to get out of here. Why are you guys calling me?" I'm like, "Oh, okay." And that like was the weirdest thing ever. So fast forward, I'm doing a live stream with my sister that was there that day, like in the room with me when we heard Erica's voice. And I mean, it's interesting because this is another just like cautionary tale of like revisiting stories with people, because when I was telling that story, my older sister Dahlia, that was there, she's like, "Wait, I heard Erica say my name 3 times. I was like, "What?" I heard her say my name 3 times. She's like, "No." I was like, weird. And looking back, we'd never asked. We just said, "Is that Erica?" We just ran to the window. And anyways, what's even more interesting is that we were talking about this story. We were talking about how weird that house was. And I had a dream of this man, and like he had a beard, he had like a red flannel shirt, and he was in the basement. And I was explaining this dream to her, and she freaked out. She's like, "Wait a minute, I had a dream of the same man, but he was in the attic. He was saying that he wanted to take you." I was like, whoa. So like I would have never known that if I never revisited the story, because I actually was a skeptic for a very long time. So I thought that whole experience was a prank, but it just kind of continued on the saga of like, no, this was truly a paranormal experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, okay, so before we open ourselves up to Q&A for anyone on the panel for the final question, out of 30 seasons of Ghost Adventures, and anything else even that wasn't filmed or taped in your personal life, what is the one thing that stands out to you most that has affected you in your paranormal experience?
I mean, I don't think I can answer just saying there's one. There's many for different variations. You know, I've been fortunate enough to travel around the world doing this, and got to be
fucking cool.
Dracula's castle in Romania, and
Doesn't get any more
I think
awesome
like
than
a
that.
location we illegally snuck into the catacombs under Paris and hiked for miles, and our guide was like, "Climb in this hole."
Do you need an assistant or anything? Just like
And then climbed in, and it opened up to a cave that was just filled with human bones, and it was a plague pit where they just dug a giant hole and just dumped all the plague bodies in, and you're just
shit.
crunch. There's no
Oh my
floor.
God.
You're just walking through human bones, and
So you were literally walking on.
yeah.
On
So that I would say is probably like the most craziest, surreal
That's
place I've been.
fucked
We were like
up.
literally 200-300 feet below the ground under Paris, walking
Jesus.
through a mass plague pit. Which honestly wasn't scary. Like it was, for some reason, it was calming. It wasn't actually scary, but it was so surreal. Like I was like, I can't believe I'm in this place.
What affected you the most? What experience?
yeah.
If anything changed you, or just
Yeah, there's been-
If you had to choose one of your
Yeah.
thousands of experiences.
So I would say I kind of think honestly there's 3.
Okay.
One I already talked about, which was the Zozo,
Right, oh, yeah.
the Ouija
Yep.
board. Then there was a place we did called Goatman's Bridge, which is out in Denton, Texas, and that location I think affected all of us.
I went to University of North Texas in Denton.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah. And basically with that one, I think all of us got affected, and I think it's something, doing a TV show, a lot of people think, oh, it's a TV show, like, we go home, and it's not. Like, this is our lives.
Oh yeah.
And I think
and
that
it fucks you up.
Oh yeah,
Like,
and I think
it
that
stays with you for
episode
days.
specifically is something that changed all of us. I mean, Aaron, he teleported or went through a portal or got thrown. We don't know, but he was at point A.
Who did?
Aaron from the show.
Oh, Aaron.
He was at point A and ends up in point B, all the way over there, all beat up, all scratched up, had no idea what happened. Zach started choking himself.
Oh, my
I actually
God.
had to like wrestle him down on the ground, pull his arms off his neck. He was like digging in. Like,
Wait, Zach was choking himself?
Yeah.
On.
Yeah.
Was that on video
yeah.
and shit? Oh
yeah.
shit.
And then my wife at the time was our behind the scenes photographer, and she would travel with us. She would do all the promo pictures, things like that for the episodes. And while we were filming the interviews, she got affected, like just from behind camera, and we noticed that she's acting weird. So we kind of turned around and started filming her because she was having experience and she wanted to hurt us. And she's like very chill, relaxed, and this was not her. And then she ended up we sent her out by herself during the investigation. And she wanted to face it, like. Thanks
Don't mind
for
the
coming.
off-roaders.
And so basically, she wanted to face it, and she's got the biggest balls in the world for like having that experience and be like, no, I want to go out. So we set up cameras and we watched her go out in the woods at Goatman's Bridge and face this, and something hit her, knocked her on the ground.
God.
And then she basically, after that, we were like, okay, like she freaked out. She literally like lost her mind for a while and felt an attachment that came home
So was
with
the whole
us.
crew having to deal with all this with everyone fucking
and then,
freaking out and shit?
Oh yeah, it's probably the most chaotic, like, boom, this is happening, that's happening, like
I'd
chaos
love to see
going
the
on.
behind the scenes
and
footage
then,
on that
So
one.
then we get home and we tell her like, hey, like, why don't you take a few months off, like just relax, maybe it's getting too much. And she basically went downhill from there, and it ultimately we ended up getting divorced. And she's kind of struggled with it for a long time, this attachment that
So
she
it
got
still
from that.
affected her to this day.
Yeah,
Like,
probably until, I talk to her every once in a while, and like she still has like, she's thankfully overall she's better, but it's still, it's something that, and I think that's what people don't realize, like this affects our lives day to day. All of us have been affected many times in
I'm
different
sure there's
ways.
nights you haven't slept or
Oh,
you
absolutely.
can't, it affects you for several
Oh,
days or
100%.
weeks.
Yeah, and then so that's the second place, and then the third place would be the Demon House, which is in Gary, Indiana, which Zach and I produced a documentary together called The Demon House. I think it's on Amazon Prime, and it's this house in Gary, Indiana that they claimed, had, they were saying hundreds and hundreds of demons, and what made this special was that all the stories coming out of it were told by police officers, social workers, because they investigated this family where like the kids would show up to school with bruises or missing school, and then they were like, it's demonic possession. So they obviously got investigated. But then every time it would be investigated, they would witness crazy, kid in the hospital running backwards up the wall, things like that.
Yeah.
So Zach ultimately bought the house, and we spent a few years between filming Ghost
Of course,
Adventures.
Zach bought the house.
Going out there, and we made a documentary, and it was probably one of the most darkest, evilest places we've ever been. And I remember bringing, one time we wanted to bring an extra camera guy, so I had my friend from Philly, he was a filmmaker, and I had him come out, and he lost his shit. Like,
So you threw your friend to the...
yeah, and it's in the movie, and it's
Oh, shit.
it's so insane. Like, we're in the hotel, and he's just bugging out. He's like, I want to go back to the house. He's getting really aggressive, and he leaves the hotel room we're all kind of having a meeting at, and he walks down the hallway, and we just hear him screaming, and he's like, I'm gonna kill you, come on, motherfucker. Like, and it's 2 a.m. in a hotel. People are yelling, I'm calling the cops. Like, we're filming this in the hallway of the hotel.
That brings up the point. Does
Yeah.
demonic possession really exist?
Yeah,
Do you-
I mean,
do you
I think
think so?
so. I'm not personally a religious person, but I think it comes down to good and evil energies. If you want to call it a demon, as a demon is, like, that's cool. Like,
Right, whether it's a physical
Right, I don't
being
necessarily-
or your own
Exactly,
psyche or
yeah.
spiritual
Right,
hatred.
I don't
yeah.
like
Right.
subscribe to like a specific like.
I would agree with that. I
Labeling
think,
of it.
Yeah, I would
necessarily.
agree. Like angels and demons are in some ways just people's psyche.
Right,
and-
it's a
and,
good or bad energy,
yeah, and
basically.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Um,
But people, I think, need to personify it
Yeah.
in a more animated way, and,
Yeah.
and so you got to put it in a person form or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that's
you want to make our brains want to make sense of everything,
Right.
so we try to form stories or ideas or things of what
Yeah.
it could be. So my buddy was losing it, and basically we filmed with him for a while trying to understand, and then off camera I took him to the stairwell, and we're sitting in the stairwell, and I was like, look, dude, like, we're gonna fly you home tomorrow, like, you're bugging out, we're gonna send you home early. And he's like, Jay, he's like, I'm sorry. He's like, I came into this like not believing any of it. He's like, I'm into creepy stuff, but like, he's like, I thought you guys are bullshit. He's like, I didn't believe any. He's like, I've been here 3 days, and I've seen enough that's changed my whole worldview, his whole perception of everything.
Wow.
And basically what he told me was that he was walking and he was starting to feel things, and he was like, this can't be real. And he's like, if you're real, show yourself. And he says the elevator door opened up, and there was a goat man standing in the elevator, and it just scared the shit out of him. And he's from Philly, so his natural instinct was like, I'm gonna fight. And, like,
Right.
and that's why he was just yelling, and like, he's literally fighting this entity.
Wow. That's
yeah,
crazy.
we sent him home, and I remember he came over my house like a few weeks later, and he was okay. And then we were doing a pickup, which is like after you film something, you get more content. And we had him do a lie detector test to like prove that his story. He passed all the lie detector tests, but he's like, "Oh, I've been good. I haven't experienced anything." As soon as I started interviewing him for like the follow up. He just got up and he just ran into my bathroom and he just started puking. And he came out. He's like, "Yeah, I just threw up blood." He's like, "I've been feeling fine." But like as soon as we started talking about it again, it just affected him. And that was the thing about Demon House is everybody in that house got affected. We had like the police chief stop by and tell us his story. He leaves, slips on ice, busts his head open. You know, we had like the guy that came and installed, I think it was like the internet or something. No, he was the home inspector that came and inspected the house because we wanted to make sure there was no contaminants. Like we went deep to try to find everything we can. He ended up getting like some crazy rare cancer like a couple weeks after that. Wow. You know, there was so many stories. The cable guy would be up in the attic and he'd be like, "What?" And we're like, "Nobody said anything." And he's like, "Oh, someone's yelling." And his like phone ended up being outside. Or there's like all this weird, like everybody that went into the house, something crazy would happen to them.
Oh my God.
So yeah, so that affected me. I felt like it was just like a dark cloud that kind of lingered for a while.
Now, is it hard being famous and just being in a grocery store line and someone wanting to talk to you about paranormal experiences at their house, or what's it like being famous doing this kind of thing?
I mean, I appreciate it. You know, we want to be able to do and be doing as long as we have if it wasn't for such an amazing fan base supporting us. So I appreciate it, and I like to give back as much as I can. And I think, you know, it's still weird to me, like being like celebrity status to me. You know, but like to me, it's like, all right, I can give 2 minutes of my time to somebody, but that will make their day or make their month or year. Where like it's just a couple minutes of me entertaining a conversation. And it's the least that I can do. It may
affect their whole aspect of how they look at life.
Exactly, 100%.
And spiritual.
You know, so I don't mind doing it. Like, it's tough sometimes. Like, you know, there's been times like I just got a phone call that's bad news or something, and you're in a bad head state, and I walk out of the hotel, and someone's like, "Jay, oh my God, can I take a picture?"
And you got to still do this in front of people.
Like, oh man, I'm going through like a really shitty day, but you're like, okay, let's do this, you know, and you know, I still, like, we don't stop, you know, like, we'll still, you know, like, we appreciate it, we respect it, and it kind of comes with the territory, I guess.
That's really neat. Jay's a great person, I can tell you that from personal experiences, and so is the rest of our panel.
Thank you.
Yeah, here, give me your $20. So we're going to open it up now to anyone who would like to ask any of our panel any questions. We've got a microphone right there next to the camera. You can ask Jay or any of our panel. Jump on in. This is an open forum.
There might be a switch up on the top. You just turn that on. Yep.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, we can hear that.
Yes. Okay. So
don't be scared, but there's a bunch of ghosts right around you.
Okay.
They are.
Yeah.
All over your upper torso.
I don't mind. They're
and
not
there might be a
cold.
bat or a moth. I can't tell.
I'm more freaked out by the moth.
I know. We have both.
I have kind of a two-part question for Stephanie. One, we are big fans of BuzzFeed Unsolved. So what was that experience like? They also went to Goatman's Bridge, and Shane was a complete ass to them, to the Goatman. So what was that like?
Actually, to clarify, I came onto BuzzFeed when Shane and Ryan were finalizing their last season. So I actually got to watch so much footage and repurpose that because I was a lead producer for their short form and all the platforms. So I mean, I've never worked with them personally, but I kind of came on as like the producer to produce and basically reimagine their footage in multiple websites and platforms. And I'm so sorry, was the other part of the question?
So the other part of the question, either Stephanie or Jay or both of you, my husband, my son, and I all experience a lot of paranormal things. Just it happens to all of us all of the time. Things we just can't explain. Things are weird. My husband's caught an orb in his hand before. I'm more like clairsentient. I feel it. I get sick. I get woozy really easily, like when I'm around those types of things. My son sees shadow figures like daily. According to like the mimic thing, like he's constantly like, "What do you want, Mom? I've been hearing you calling me." And I'm like, "I wasn't calling you," you know? So we have those things happen a lot. My husband's completely freaked out by it, hates it, hates when we come to these kinds of things, is terrified. I'm trying to normalize it and help my son through it because he's got a bigger tie to it than any of us. what is your advice to people like that, to where you can connect with it but not be afraid of it and go through life not terrified of it?
Sure. What I would say is, I think we've touched on a few things about that. Is one, like, in this realm, we are in control. Like, we are the more powerful being in this world that we exist. But spirits, and especially evil spirits, are going to use our insecurities, our anxieties, our worries, our fears, our vices to try to break us down, to try to create fights, to create, bad thoughts in our heads, to break us down so that they can overtake us. So it's easier said than done, but the first thing I always tell everybody is stay positive as much as you can and know that you have control. It's kind of like I grew up with 2 older brothers, so I was always picked on as a little kid. Like, they would hold me down and fart on my head and, like, do the whole spit thing where they, like, spit it and then slurp it back up and do that. And they would just pick on me, and I learned that, like, I just gave in. I was like, just do it. And then they stopped. And then they were like, this isn't fun anymore. Like, I'm not getting a reaction that I want. And they stopped picking on me. So I kind of use that as like an analogy for, spirits. Like, the more you feed into it, and I think that's part of why we get lots of evidence, because we're in it all the time. We're always doing it. But if you don't, and you kind of back off, you don't give it that time, and it's easier said than done, but you don't give it that strength, it will ultimately kind of lose its interest, and it's going to find something else. It's going to go somewhere else. And then ultimately I tell people, like, it depends on your belief system. I think, if you're not religious, prayer's not going to necessarily work, or a blessing, things like that, it's not going to work. But if you are, do it. Do whatever you feel works for you. If it's positive, for me, whenever I feel I'm being affected, it's like I play music. So I go to the studio, I start writing music, I create art, I play with my dogs, I go hiking in nature, just try to reconnect. So, like, finding whatever it is for you to create that positive energy and just engulf yourself in that as much as possible.
Good point.
Yeah, and to add to that, like, for me, when I do house cleansings, because normally that's what that will happen. Someone will call me and they'll be like, hey, I feel like, oh my God, there's this elderly lady, bless her, I feel so bad. But she was already scared because she was sensing stuff in her house. And then somebody came and told her, oh, you have 7 million attachments. Like, I'm not even joking. They're just making like this over-exaggerative number of like, they're attached to you, this and the third. And so I did a reading for her before I came to her house, and I said, look, I'm going to come to your house, but I want you to know that I'm not sensing this. I don't. And I also want to ask, like, are you open to also doing the work? So the reason why I say that is because, again, like, we are the strongest because we are in this plane. I know it's easier said than done. But the first thing I always look at when I go to a house is, like, get rid of, and I know this is going to sound so basic, but get rid of clutter. Like, if there's things in there that just like remind you of just like sadness and like not happy memories, get rid of that. Because part of energy is also like have you ever, like, for example, like ever been through a breakup or like some massive life-changing event and you're like, I just want to get rid of whatever's here, or I want to redo my house. So it starts there. Like, not only does that physically help your space, but also mentally, like, it's a reset. So I would recommend also like looking at your space and like, how do you make it more of your space rather than the space that's reminding you of like, this doesn't feel like my house. This doesn't feel good. So decluttering, and I know this is going to sound silly, but dusting, I strongly believe that dust and anything from the past also holds energy. So make sure that in spaces that you've never even thought of, like the top of your window or blinds, like the curtains, like when was the last time you washed the curtains, like things like that. It literally starts there, like doing a physical cleanse. So it manifests into like also that energetic cleanse. And same thing, just like staying positive, like you are doing everything in the physical to get rid of that old energy, whether it's painting, cleaning, make it more your home. Again, I know it's a basic answer, but it does do a huge, huge difference. I hope that helps. Yeah.
It does. Thank you. Any other questions for any of our panel? Got someone coming up. Thank you.
Hello? Working?
Hello?
Okay.
Hey,
Yeah, good?
perfect.
Okay.
And remind me of your name.
Griffin.
Thank you, Griffin. What's your question?
Jay, earlier you were talking about when you were young, you had an experience hunting out the Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
I've heard all kinds of crazy theories about what it is, who it is, ranging from a demonic entity to government experiment to somebody who got transformed into the creature. What is your experience? What's your best evidence for it, and what do you think it is?
So the Jersey Devil itself, it's hard to say because it's been such a myth that's existed. And like you were saying, there's so many different beliefs, different stories. I mean, even simpler, I've grown up hearing it was some guy that banged a goat and some weird thing got created. Like, it's so.
I
Like,
didn't do it, for the record.
where were you in New Jersey?
I wasn't there in that. What year was it? I mean, I shouldn't have to ask.
And then there's so many stories, so it's hard to say exactly. But from what I experienced out there, I've seen things, I've seen creatures, like things that would fall under the realm of like Bigfoot or leprechauns or fairies, things like that, like elemental beings. And I do believe that there are things that exist, like creatures, if you will, that because that's the thing, these myths are worldwide. Every culture has stories about these different types of creatures existing, and who are we to say that, like, what was it, like they just said we've only explored like such a small percentage of the ocean floor, and there's so many like land masses and woods and forests that like we can only see and experience so much of it.
True.
So there's no doubt in my mind that there's creatures that we don't understand yet that exist, whether it's like a demonic demon or something like that. That's yet to be known, but I do believe there are creatures. There's a lot of belief too that I tend to believe that they're not necessarily like a raccoon or an animal or a bear or something like that, but they're actually interdimensional, so they can travel, and that's why like Bigfoot's so hard to find. Like once they're seen, they're kind of just gone suddenly.
So do you believe in Bigfoot?
I believe that there could be a Bigfoot. I haven't seen a Bigfoot. I've seen shapeshifters. I've seen, skinwalkers. I've seen things that I don't know. I feel like I saw something that I would describe as a leprechaun once. I've seen aliens. Like I've experienced all these different
So you're just
creatures.
open that it,
but I'm
it
absolutely
could possibly
open.
exist.
I think we live on this rock floating through space. Like there's so much more that we don't know exists.
Yeah, it's
so
almost more logical that there's weirder things that we don't understand
Exactly.
than just what we know. Like,
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So to say that, oh, absolutely not, like I can never say that.
That's cool. Any other questions for Jay or any of the other panel members? Because tonight at 10 o'clock, for those of you that are doing the paranormal VIP tour with Jay, we'll get to experience what it's like to actually go, oh, we do have a question. I like it. Please.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline, and
Jacqueline.
I want to ask you guys a question. If you have a sensitivity to the paranormal, what is your tell? I know, Austin, you said you get your hair sticking up. And then, Jay, besides your investigations, what inspires you with your art and your music?
I think for me, inspiration comes from the world around me. It's my experiences. It's the people I meet, the people I encounter, places I go, things I see. And I think I've always been a creative. I grew up very fortunate in a household that, and I'm not knocking anybody, but they didn't hold me to any specific way to live. I was the youngest of 3 boys, so by the time they got to me, they're like, just go. They'll be fine. Just do whatever you want. And I had that, support of my parents to kind of, and I was a nerd, so I learned everything I could. I studied different cultures, different belief systems, and, I think being able to do that let me just be more open to everything. And so I don't know. I think I'm rambling. I forget even the original question.
No,
What's your
that's
tell?
absolutely right. And I met you last year, and I felt like I could have told you anything, and whatever my beliefs are or anything, you wouldn't judge me. And that's cool. And it's like everyone's got different understandings of why this paranormal world exists. But there's one thing that I think is fact, that there is a bigger world beyond what our own minds can comprehend. And to your point about dogs being able to hear things that we can't hear and those kind of things, like there is a bigger world than our sensory projection. And that's a cool thing to even try to tap into, which is what this whole night is about.
Yeah, and I think that's, so to kind of go back, it was inspiration. It just popped in my head. Inspiration, that it was inspiration. And but I think it's the universe in a weird way. Like there's things that like, you know, I would like how do we get the thoughts we get? Like, I don't know if you ever experienced this, but like you could just be doing nothing. Like I've just been driving and all of a sudden you just get these crazy ideas or crazy thoughts. And if you're an artist or whatever you do, you write it down, you draw it, you know, even if it's music, you hear something in your head, like where does that come from? Like it might not even be anything that actually inspired you in that moment. And I think that plays into the bigger
It does, and I'm a huge
consciousness,
Ozzy Osbourne fan, and he always said, I'm not a music writer, I'm a music receptor.
Exactly. It's like the universe sends these things to us, and we pick up on it, and then we're like, oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to write that down, or I'm going to act upon that. You know?
I think the world is much bigger than we give it credit for on a daily basis. And these kind of events help us open up our minds to something that's bigger than just what we're used to on a daily basis, which is very cool.
100%.
Very awesome. Well, I just want to thank everyone that's come out to be a part of this event tonight, and especially Austin's done an amazing job organizing this whole event. And thank you, Austin. And Stephanie, Danielle, Jay, this has been a monumental experience, and it's not ending. If you want to do the VIP tour tonight, which is just in a few minutes now, you still have that we have a couple more spots available.
We have about 4 or 5 slots left. Real quick though, I do want to say one thank you to Danielle for doing this. She was, I don't want to say our latest addition, but she immediately was like, I'm going to be involved. And I was like, okay, yes, please tell me how, please help. I want to say thank you to Stephanie, who drove out here from California to be part of this event. So I'm really thankful for you for doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you to Jay for listening to me, because sometimes I talk to him and he's like, yeah, that's cool, I'm going to go home now.
Really, I just nod.
He just pretends to listen to
he
you.
just pretends, and then,
That's a
then
great
he goes,
idea,
that'll be a $10,000 appearance fee for you showing up to talk to me. And then thank you to Steven for allowing us to put on this event tonight.
No,
This was
thank
the
you.
Great
Thank you,
first
guys.
Run.
It's a special moment for me, and I think it's just going to keep continuing. And then tomorrow night, if you want to get really crazy with the VIP experience, with the investigation at my house down the street, that'll be next level as well. So,
yeah. So if you're interested in either of those, like I said, the tomorrow night tour, it's a hard limit on how many people, just because it's a very intimate setting. It's a very small home. I don't want to have too many people there. With the saloon, we can kind of break up into groups and whatnot. So we have about 4 or 5 slots left for tonight. If you are interested, go talk up front with them, and they'll get you checked out for it. It's going to be really cool, really exclusive access that you're probably not going to get otherwise. And then the one tomorrow night, we're only going to take 3 or 4 more people max for the entire tour. And that one's going to be really cool because it's in a private residence. I mean, I've been there. It's
fucked up.
I'm not going to say that because I'm trying to sell
there.
here, Steven. But it's a really cool experience, as opposed to the Pioneer, which definitely has stuff happening, but we call it more of a mischievous energy. A little bit darker there, but it's a much cooler experience. So if that interests you at all, we still got about 30 minutes left, so please check out the vendors. If you want to have a meet and greet with Jay, please go ahead and do that. And
thank you, Austin.
Thank you.
And thank you, Danielle, Stephanie, and Jay. Give it
you.
up for our panel tonight. It's been amazing. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.